I used to pull.
Yeah, go ahead, have a seat. Make yourself
Yeah,
comfortable.
do you guys want to do the interview?
Oh.
Okay, should we sit?
And I did my survival classes in the field. In other words, they didn't come to a room for the survival class. I used to pull a little surprise on them when they were in their aircraft to take off, and I would ground their aircraft. And everybody on that aircraft, they can take whatever they brought on there as far as food and survival gear with them. Then I would take them out into the desert or the jungle, depending on where I was training them at, in the area that they were going to be flying over. So at the beginning, a lot of them wouldn't have anything on there for survival. They'd have to go out there and try to live for 2 weeks without anything. No food, no water. But you better believe that when the word got around, everybody started putting water and food on their aircrafts, food that would not spoil when they were out in the desert or whatever, like I say, whatever area they were flying over. And I'd keep them out there for 2 weeks. I wouldn't bring anything with me. And then after a while they'd start watching what I was doing, where I was getting food from the cactus or whatever, depending on the area. And every night I would sit them all down and let them have a little class out there. And I would show them what to do, what not to do. Anybody have any questions?
How did you learn how to survive?
My own self. I wrote the survival book for the Air Force and for the Army. But that was all on me.
Where are you from?
New Jersey. In the city. Newark, New Jersey was where I was born. Right on between New York and New Jersey.
When did you start getting into the Navy and Army?
Well, I was in the Air Force, not the Navy.
Oh,
I was in the Air Force for 8 years, and then I went in the Army for 8 years as a tank commander.
Okay.
But they didn't utilize me for that. They utilized me for survival training again. Let the tankers get out in the field, ground their tank. Your tank is just blown up. But I'd take them out into the desert or out in the Okinawa swamps, depending on the areas that they were flying or working over. And that's the best way to train them. They learned to put survival gear on either their aircraft or inside their tank so that they knew the area they were going, make sure that you get your water and your food or whatever, and make sure you have what weapons you had to have in that area if you were in enemy territory or whatever. But I would give them a situation, and then they'd have to follow that situation while they were out there.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed in Texas, I was stationed in Alabama, stationed in New Jersey, quite a few places. Then I went to Korea and Vietnam.
Where would a city boy get the survival knowledge that a scientist would normally have?
Well, myself, I had no, it's just general knowledge. What would you do in them situations? So I got other books, survival books and stuff, and I read them. And then that's just the way it started. I started giving the classes, and then the other Air Force bases found out about me, and I went there, trained their pilots, co-pilots, navigators, bombardiers, crew chief on them aircraft. But I wouldn't just give them a class in the classroom. Like I say, I let them pull out onto the flight line, and then they get on the ready spot to take off. Once they're there, they're going to go. But the base would ground that plane, tell them to go back to the hot spot where they put everything on their aircraft. Then I would take them off. Whatever they had on that aircraft, I let them take it. If they didn't have water on there or no food on there, that's how they got to go for 2 weeks into the desert. So they all started, you better believe, started putting food and water on them aircraft before they went out onto that hot spot. Because when they went out on the hot spot, they're looking out the window to see if I was out there.
Do you do the same training for both the Air Force and the Army?
Same thing.
Did you have a preference?
In the Army, I worked mostly with tankers. M18 tanks. I worked mostly with tankers. Not too much Army aircraft, but in the Air Force it was all B-47s, B-50s, bombers, fighter planes.
Did you have a preference for which one you liked better? The
I
Air
liked them
Force?
both.
Both?
I
You
liked
put
them
the same?
both. That's why I put 8 years in each one. 8 years in the
Yeah,
Army,
that
8 years
makes
in the Air
sense.
Force.
That's cool. What's the most interesting place that you've traveled to during that?
Okinawa.
Okinawa?
Yeah, Okinawa, Japan. I did the same thing there too.
Did you get to meet any of the people over there, or what it was like?
Oh,
Did you?
oh, certainly, yes. You mean the people from town?
Yeah, from
Yeah.
town, like the culture
Oh,
and all
certainly.
that around there.
Yeah, in fact, I married a North Vietnamese girl while I was in the service.
Oh,
How'd you
really?
guys
Not a
fall in
South
love?
Vietnamese. I just met her there in town when I was on leave.
Wait, from North Vietnam?
Yeah, she was originally from North Vietnam. Her family's all still in North Vietnam. She's here now in California.
Oh,
Do you
that's
have children?
No.
Did you meet her? It sounded like you met her in Okinawa.
Okinawa.
You did. What was she doing in Okinawa?
Well, she was going to school there.
Uh-huh. How did she get there from North Korea? I mean, North Vietnam.
I can't remember exactly
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What did you do after the service?
After the service, I went to work for Northup Aircraft Company, which is my family out here in El Monte. And I was doing riveting for them on the Navy fighter planes, the wings, the stress parts on the wings. Every rivet had to be exactly perfect, otherwise they'd scrap the wing. That's what I was doing with them.
Is that Northrop Grumman?
Right.
That's an enormous company.
Oh yes.
How long did you work for them for?
I worked for Fletcher Aircraft, who also part of Northrop Aircraft.
And Northrop is part of your family.
Right.
Tell us about that. When did your family start the aircraft?
I really don't know too much about that because I was not too much in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was called several times into the office to find out why I was working for them instead of my own family.
Mm-hmm.
But I would rather work for another company than my own family.
Mm-hmm. Because you all didn't get along very well?
No, I really didn't know them. I just thought it would be better for me to work for a different company than my family.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be put in a situation where like I'm a boss or something. I like the working.
Mm-hmm. You want to be your own person.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
That is cool. Did you experience a lot of people failing this survival training that you did?
No, not really, because once I trained them and they left, I had no more. I'd have another classes right after that. So once they left me, it was on them then.
Right.
But I made sure that when I was giving them classes, they knew what I was talking about. Taking them out into the field.
And they had pre-training.
And I would take them out there and tell them, okay, here's where you crash, survive, I'd sit on the ground. Then while they were trying to make camouflage and stuff like that, I told them they were in enemy territory and there's no chance right now to be rescued, so you have to survive right here.
Did they know how long they'd be there for?
No, they didn't know anything other than that. And I'd sit on the ground and let them make their bedding and stuff like that because they didn't have anything with them. Because when I had them on the plane, whatever they had of their own personal stuff, I let them bring that. But there was no food on that aircraft. So they had to start looking for food themselves. And if they started really getting hungry, and I'd say, okay, I would go out and get food out of the jungle, and then they'd watch what I did, and then they would do it. If they didn't, they were going hungry.
What were some of the nastiest things that you had to eat out there?
Actually, you try different things, but snakes is really good to eat. Depend on different different things that are growing in the jungle itself.
What were these jungles?
Huh?
What were some of the jungles that you?
Okinawa, Japan, Korea, South Korea.
And were there times that you had to like eat raw food and so like you weren't able to start a fire or anything?
Well, yeah, you can't start a fire if you're in enemy territory, so you have to eat everything raw then.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. The situations and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they didn't like me too well. Some of the pilots, they weren't expecting it, and then they'd pull out onto the flight line, and the tower would tell them, "You're grounded. Stay there. Stay in the hot spot." And sometimes you can hear, "Oh no!" And here comes Ken out with his truck.
And word got out about that. People kind of.
Oh, certainly, yeah. So they knew they were going for survival training.
And they're going to be eating insects.
Sometimes,
Did they have
whatever you can find, you know, you're going to try to stay alive. And almost every plant you can eat out there in the jungle, almost. So
Did they have any sort of pre-training besides boot camp?
they have a survival book for the Air Force and for the Army. It's pretty much the same, and most of the pilots do read it. Some of them that don't. When I get them out there, I had several books with me, so I would always put some books out for them to read. And then I would give them a test at the end of their 2 weeks out there.
Did you write your books while you were in the service, or did you write after your
No,
experience?
during my service time.
During that, while it was going on.
Yeah.
Nice. And how long did it take to get those published, or
No,
for those
that was all done through the service.
through the service?
Right.
It was just okay. That's cool.
The base commander and several other officers would read them first and give the okay on them.
Nice.
Because you never knew, when I grounded the planes, I never knew who was going to be on them. Sometimes colonels, a couple times generals.
Why did you join the service?
Well, I was 17 years old and I wanted to do it. Just wanted to go in.
Was your family supportive of it?
The what?
Was your family supportive of you?
Oh, yes.
Did you have any other family that had been in the service?
Oh, yes. Northup Aircraft Company, they have a lot of, even here in California, a lot of my family members still work for them. But I never worked for them.
What would you say the two biggest pieces of advice you could give to someone surviving out in the desert would be?
Well, try to stay calm. Whatever, look around. If you see a monkey, or depending on where you are, you watch what the birds eat, what the monkeys are eating, or other animals are eating out there. You can eat it too.
Okay.
So that's the easiest way to find food, just by studying, seeing what's going on around.
Smart. What about finding water and stuff?
Well,
Clean water that you could drink.
you'd look for streams, any moving water, because the moving water purifies itself through the ground.
That's cool.
What was the best piece of advice you ever got? Who gave it to you?
Best piece of advice: stay calm. Don't get cuckoo out there. That's it.
Why did you end up leaving the service?
16 years was enough for me. I decided to get out.
And you went to work directly after you got out?
Mm-hmm. I went to work making jet fighter wings for Fletcher Aircraft Company in El Monte.
What would you say you liked better, being in the workforce or actually?
I like service life.
Yeah.
Got to a lot of bases in Japan, Korea, Vietnam.
Got to see a lot of
All over.
places. Yeah, I bet. It's really cool.
What did you do after working for the airplane company or the aircraft companies?
What did I do for them? I was
What did you
making
do after?
After that,
Yeah.
I would work on the police department. I worked on a violent crime task force for Long Beach, go after violent criminals.
What was your most memorable story from doing that job?
It wasn't fun.
How long did you do that for?
Couple years. That was that's who I worked for.
Was it a dangerous job?
Very.
Mm-hmm.
What was
Yeah.
the scariest thing
Oh.
that happened to you that you can,
I don't think I was ever scared.
Yeah.
Just very,
the most
gotta
high
watch
risk?
everything.
So you worked with the FBI then?
Yes.
That's,
Out of Long Beach.
is there a lot of things that the FBI keeps from the general public that
Yeah.
you find
Things that I can't talk about.
that you can't talk about? Right.
And how long did you say you did that for? Just a couple of years?
What?
How long did you do that for? Just a few years?
For them, not a couple of years. About, I guess 4 or 5 years.
How did you get involved with that?
Through the police departments that I worked for. Before I worked for the FBI, it's altogether different.
Did it ever get? Was there ever a point where it was too overwhelming for you, or that you ever thought that you wanted to leave
Well,
the service
sometimes.
early?
Sometimes. It's not fun.
Yeah. And,
And when you say it's not fun, what do you mean? Are you saying that it's
It
uncomfortable?
was sometimes it was very uncomfortable. Because you start thinking, you know, am I doing the right thing? You know, because it was not safe half the time. Because if they found out about me a couple of times that I was really close with the Campisi brothers. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Mafia.
with Murder Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
You heard of that? You want somebody dead, you get in touch with them, they're dead.
oh wow. Yeah.
And
So you're talking about deep cover,
Yeah.
and when you're wondering if you're doing the right thing, you're wondering if you're going to live through this.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, I got to be very good friends with, like, the Campisis, and they were really a bad family, even the mother and father of the boys.
How do you move on from a job like that without being exposed?
Move out of state,
Mhm. Is that what you did?
yeah.
Well, where
New Jersey.
you moved back to New Jersey?
No, moved out of New Jersey.
Um,
Moved to Florida. Then I went to work for them down there.
So you got yourself into the same
Pretty much.
mess.
You're saying you went to work for the Campisi family in Florida?
No,
Oh,
the Campisis were the bad ones.
that's what I thought. I'm
Oh, no.
How did they almost find out who you were?
Because I went to school with some of them. And the word got around.
Did you develop any really good companions while in the war in the service? Like really good friends?
From the service?
Yeah, that you still talk
Well,
to now and stuff.
Oh, no.
Not
That's
now.
a long time ago. Most of the ones I worked for in the service was officers.
Okay.
Aircraft, pilots, co-pilots, navigator, bombardier, and crew chief. And they never knew when I was going to go on their base. When I went on there, I went on and worked with the base commander, and he knew which ones never went through survival school. So when they were in their aircraft and ready to take off, the tower would ground them, tell them to go back to the hot spot. That's when they make sure everything is on that aircraft. That they leave the hot spot to go to the flight line. So then they should have everything on that aircraft at that time. So when they came back to the hot spot, I take them off and let them bring anything that they had on that aircraft. They can't go and get anything. Whatever they had on that aircraft, that's how they had to survive for 2 weeks in the desert, or depending on where we were.
How How long did you work for the FBI for?
7, 8 years.
And you did undercover with them?
Yeah.
And was that mostly in New Jersey?
No, that was in
Oh,
California.
in Long Beach. Long Beach.
That's where the main office for the FBI is. It's in Long Beach.
And what did you do after you retired out of the FBI?
I haven't done anything anymore. Painting houses. I had a painting company. But no more of that.
You own your own painting company?
Yes.
So, and you explained earlier that you would rather be working there than the boss. So you flipped it around there. How was that, being the boss of everything?
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
Started doing all the Burger Kings in the state of California.
Oh, really?
All the churches, chicken places,
Oh, that's cool.
and private homes.
Who,
Danny Thomas's house, Elvis's house. I did Graceland.
You painted
Oh, wow.
Graceland?
You
Yeah.
painted Graceland? You said that so casually.
I took care of Elvis's house for approximately maybe 10, 15 years.
So
Did
you
you-
knew
Any
him.
little thing that he wanted done, I did it.
So
did you get to
knew
meet him?
Certainly. You know.
What was he
Actually,
like as a guy?
Danny Thomas introduced me to him. The same, his house, Danny Thomas's house, isn't too far from Elvis's, and it was built by the same builder.
Oh, okay.
So then I started doing work for. Once you do one job, it should get you another job. Otherwise, you're not doing your job right. So, like I did Danny Thomas's house first, and Marlo Thomas. That's when she was just born.
All right.
His daughter.
I had and I babysat Marlo Thomas when she was a baby.
You're kidding.
At one
Wow.
time in Hollywood, she was there, and I went up to her. I said, "Hi, Marla." She's looking at me. I said, "You don't know me now," but I said, "When you was a little bitty baby, I had to change your diaper." I babysat you when your mom and dad used to go out.
How long did you have the painting
Back-
company for?
huh?
How long did you have the company for?
My company, quite a few years, probably 10, 15 years.
And how'd you exit out of that? You just shut down the doors,
Yeah.
or did you sell it, or?
No, you can't sell your business, not painting business.
Right.
Because if you sold it, they may not do as good as. I don't want my name on something else
Right.
that somebody's doing.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. That's cool.
I remember you shared before that you had some time as a pastor.
I'm a high priest in a Mormon church.
Okay. Tell us
Mormon
about that.
church.
How did that, where did that
I
fit in?
All right, up in Maine. I was living up in Maine. Started going to the Mormon church up there. And I loved going to church. My brother Jim and myself, since we were little kids, we used to every Sunday take him and I have 17 brothers and sisters. Okay, that's a small family. No.
Are they all from the
My
same
mother-
parents?
My mother said she's not a good Catholic. She's just a sexy Protestant. So that's I got home.
Your mom had 17 children.
17.
Wow.
And where do you fit in?
Up number 3.
Wow.
I
How
have
many?
2 brothers older than myself, and then I have other brothers and sisters. Some of them I've never met because I was already out of New Jersey
Right.
in the service, and then when I got out of the service, I stayed in California for a while. Then I went to Florida. I worked for the violent crime force out there.
And you never you guys never had family reunions or anything like that? You've never met?
Well, they do, but I never go to them.
And so the Mormon,
Right.
you became part of the Mormon faith?
Yes, I still am.
You
But
are.
the thing is, I don't go to church right now because if you are sick, you cannot give a blessing to somebody that's healthy or maybe getting sick or something. So I can't put my hands on them and give them a blessing because I'm sick, and I'm still sick. I have cancer in my throat, my kidneys, my bladder, and my stomach. So I can't give a blessing. So I can't perform my job in the church now.
Wow.
I can go to church, but I just can't participate in it.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Mm.
Absolutely. Do you miss that at all? Do you wish?
Very, very, very much. But
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
the way it is.
Because I have a couple of friends back home who